Welcome back to Uganda's first ever live debate. It's televised across the world and locally on NBS as well as NTV and other local TV stations. And thank you very much for those of you joining us live on radio wherever you are in this country. My name is Alan Kasuja, moderating this session with Nancy Kachungira. Now, let's talk about the rule of law in this country. And Honorable Mbabazi, I would like to start with you. What's your assessment of the way things are going at the moment?
I think that we have come a long way as a country because we now have a constitution, we have institutions of state, we have clear pillars of government. But obviously, we still face very many challenges because you couldn't say that the rule of law is fully respected.
Give me an example of what you mean.
And respected.
Give me an example of what you mean.
Let me give you the example of this campaign. I have been around on the campaign trail. The other day, last week, I was in Kotido. And I had my day in Kotido. And I think it was NTV that interviewed people around about their opinion. An 83-year-old man gave his opinion freely. He said for him, he would vote for change, and he gave his reasons. This interview was aired, and the following day, the 83-year-old man was arrested and imprisoned. And I think he's still in jail. Not tried, not charged with any specific offense.
Are you surprised by these things?
Of course I am.
Why? The reason I ask whether or not you're surprised, when you were still Minister of Security, Minister of Defense, the many titles you held, safe houses existed in this country. People were being, if you go by what you've heard, thrown into these safe houses and held incommunicado. While you were Secretary General of the NRM, Kizza Besigye, who is now your comrade, went through what some people might describe as very difficult times. So the key question is, I'm wondering if you are expecting to be treated differently now that you are in the opposition, or whether or not, and whether your personal experiences is what you're learning from in order to seek to improve the situation.
Well, the point is, I am talking about the present. And I'm telling you what is happening. That is what I say is the state of the rule of law in Uganda today. I can go back and tell you what it was previously. I thought your question was about the present.
But I also asked if you're surprised by...
Yeah. You see, I believe... And I know that the level of civilization of any given society is measured by how that society respects the rule of law and how actually rules govern society. And this is very critical. In Uganda, it's not the case. Because you witnessed a case when one group attacked another group, and the attacked defended themselves effectively, and the entire state machinery, including an order from the president, that they must be arrested.
Okay, now, critically, Honorable Mbabazi, I'm wondering if you can respond at all to allegations that have been made by...
But I want to talk about safe houses.
Yes,
do you mind?
Very briefly, because we need to speak to everybody else.
Yeah.
The plight of your security, of your chief bodyguard, Aine. The government says he's in hiding. The government says that he's in hiding and is being helped by some people who might be around you. And I'm just wondering if you can make a statement to clarify what the situation is with that.
But if you know where someone is hiding, then you bring him out. I have commented on this many times because this is a demand by the public wherever you go. They want to know the fate of Christopher Aine. And I have told them what we've done is try to go by the law.
Okay.
My lawyers have applied for the writ of habeas corpus in court, and I hope the court will soon determine the issue so that the government is forced either to bring the body of Aine or say definitively in a court of law that they don't have him. Now,
All right.
let me talk about this, because there was a very critical point that was made about safe houses. Allow me, please, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Thank you. You know, a place where people are detained illegally cannot be a safe house. It is an unsafe house. A safe house is a place used by especially intelligence and security services to carry out activities that need to be secure. It has nothing to do with detention. And therefore, the fact that there were safe houses when I was minister, or even in charge of intelligence for that matter, has nothing to do with what you are describing. Any place which is not gazetted as a detention center is an illegal place and cannot be a safe house. A safe house...
We're going to have to go to Dr. Bwanika now. Thank you. Dr. Bwanika.
I think we all agreed to behave ourselves, so let's just allow Nancy to continue with her job.
Let's be fair to all the candidates. Dr. Bwanika, corruption is a cancer that is eating at this society. Everybody agrees with that. If you become president, you will inherit a government in which people have very little trust for the institutions that it runs. How is that a challenge that you will deal with?
Of course, corruption in Uganda is endemic and it has become a culture among many people in this country. We lose close to $1 billion every year through corruption. And my take is very simple. We have very good laws. I'm not going to enact new laws. We have very good organizations, bodies that fight corruption. I'm not going to put in place new ones. I'm going to do two things. Every person, and I want to put them on the warning, if you have worked for government for the last 30 years, we are going to ask you to account for the wealth that you have. You must account for the wealth that you have. Any wealth, any property which you cannot explain clearly, it will revert to the people of Uganda. Secondly, we are going to go back to the infants, to the elementary school, and teach our children another more value. That for you to amount wealth on yourself cannot be the desired more value for our generation. It is as simple as that. We will fight corruption. If we don't need to take people to Luzira, we only need to get what they have and we'll bring it back to the people of Uganda.
Okay. Thank you very much. We are now in a different part of this discussion, and I'd like to start with you, Professor Balyamureba. I'm wondering if there's any question you'd like to pose to any of the candidates at all.
Now, I think the question I pose is to the NRA/NRM historicals. We have three of them here. Kanokiza Vesje, Major Biraro, Honorable Mama Mbabazi, and President Museveni this side. It seems, when I listen to them...
Can you repeat to the question as briefly as possible,
yes.
Please?
If I listen to them, it seems like if President Museveni had stuck to what they had agreed upon, none of them would be here. Can I get their response?
Dr. Besigye, what's your response?
Yes, I wouldn't be here. Neither would he.
What about you, General Biraro?
I would be here. I would be here because if you look at the development of Uganda compared to other nations, I talk of superpowers, we are not there. Industrial powers, we are not there. Developing countries, we are not there. Poor countries like Kenya here, we are not there. We are HIPIC. And then, so the workload remains, and we need to do that.
Mr. Mbabazi, what's your response?
What was the question?
Okay, I will excuse you from that question.
No, I'm ready. I'm happy to answer it if I know what it is.
Would you like to ask your question again?
Ask the question again. Right Honorable Mama Mbabazi, I would like to know if President Museveni had stuck to what you agreed upon, would you be here today?
No, because President Museveni would not be president.
Okay. Maureen Chalia. Maureen Chalia, I wonder if you've got any question for any of the candidates here.
Of course, I'm a woman, so I'm going to ask Dr. Kizza Besigye. You are a brother-in-law to President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni because you are married to his sister, Honorable Winnie Byanyima. When we talk about change, you are part of the first family. Is it really fair to this country that presidents must move from the first family and rotate within the first family because that makes you part of the first family? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. First, quite obviously, I have nothing against members of the first family seeking leadership of this country, even when one of them is a leader. Our problem in this country is having just systems of government, so that whoever is seeking office is not the problem, that the people of Uganda have the power to say you can become or you will not become.
Okay.
Now, having said that, quite obviously, I don't know whether the question was,
are you a member of the first family?
Because quite obviously, I am as far away from the first family as they get.
All right.
I have absolutely no relationship whatsoever with the first family, neither does my wife.
Okay, thank you very much for answering that, Dr. Kizza Besigye. What about you, Dr. Besigye? And I'm going to be more specific about the question that you'll ask. I'll ask you to ask Amama Mbabazi a question. What is that question and what will it be?
Well, a very simple one. I would like to know whether the Honorable Amama Mbabazi, throughout his tenure of the various offices in government, ever became aware of the type and extent of election rigging in this country, and whether if he did and was aware of any election rigging, whether in this particular election he thinks that we can work around it.
moderator allow unfair questions? My clear answer is that I am not aware because I was never involved in election rigging. That's a fact. I have heard some stories about election rigging. I don't have any personal or direct knowledge of that rigging. So it is possible, of course, that there was rigging. I'm only saying I was not aware. Secondly, I am absolutely determined to do everything possible to make sure that this election is secure. And we are going to do what it takes, what the situation demands, to ensure that those that have that intention.
Okay, yeah. If you get to the point as quickly as possible.
I just wanted to say that we will take all the measures possible.
So you'll work with Dr. Besigye in doing that?
Of course.
Okay.
And I would be happy to lend him my experience.
Mr. Mabirizi, what's your question to whichever candidate you want?
I'm allowed to ask two candidates.
One candidate, please, because of time issues.
Honorable Amama Mbabazi, what do you have to say about supporting the gays and Temangalo land being raised from 14 million to 24 million?
What was the first question? There are two questions. Did you hear the first one?
The first question was, what do you say about... Could you just ask the question so that I'm very clear? I want you to ask the question because you own that question.
He said, what do I think about the something?
What is your question, please, as soon as you can?
Just repeat it as it was.
Yes,
I didn't hear well.
We've heard some voices from here saying that you do support the gays. So what do you have to say about that? And the second question is about Temangalo land being raised from 14 million to 24 million per acre, and there were 414 acres.
Which gays? He asked me whether I support the gays. Which ones?
Homosexuality.
Well, I've heard this story making the rounds. When I was in Rango, I found that one of the MPs called Honorable Amongin, she's a woman, she was saying that I support the gays or I am gay. So I made a public challenge that I stated that, you know very well, I'm a married man. My wife is a woman. We have produced children, and I have incredibly beautiful 11 grandchildren. So I'm not gay. Secondly, I challenged Amongin, in case you had doubts, to put it to the test. And there is another person whom I will not mention now, who has been going around on radios and saying the same things. And I challenged her. I want to challenge her even now. You know, gays are people of the same sex. Now, that person who is talking to me, I'm not sure that it is a lady. I am not aware that she has a husband. I am not aware that she has children. So when you compare me, a married man with children and grandchildren, and someone who is alleging things who does not have any of those, then it becomes difficult. No, the second thing is about Temangalo.
We've run out of time though.
Temangalo, but I was asking about Temangalo.
Yes,
can I
quickly as you can.
First of all, this is the first time ever I hear that Temangalo land price was increased from 14 million to 24. This has never happened. This is an invention of tonight. It never happened.
Does that settle it so that we can move on?
No. Secondly, yes, there were allegations that because I sold my land, 99 acres, not 400, I sold 99 acres, not 400. That's a fact. The allegation was that I had overpriced the land and I had used my influence to get that money from NSSF.
Okay, we do need to move on.
Yes, but I think it is fair when a question is asked, because when you leave it unanswered, the impression given is that it's true.
Yeah, you do need to get to the answer as quickly as you can as well.
No, I am actually fast, as you know. Fast enough to be understood by everyone. This allegation was probed by Parliament, was probed by police, was probed by the IGG. And all of them came to the same conclusion separately, that price was the market price. In fact, it was below the market price of the land at the time in that area. Secondly, that I did not use any influence, and it would be ridiculous that I had used my influence to be paid less than the market price.
Okay, thank you very much. Major General Biraro.
To Dr. Kizza Besigye, I intend to advocate for the change of this constitution of Uganda. You have seen that, I have observed, and you may also have observed, that you cannot fight corruption adequately when this kind of constitution is in place. I want to call for the proportional representation where we don't have to have members of parliament going out there to campaign for themselves.
What's your question?
Would he support that? The change of this constitution?
Yes, there are many changes in the constitution that I consider necessary, especially to increase the participation of citizens and to minimize the concentration of power. And the proportional representation is one area that I consider as one of the possible remedies, especially to the type of monetization of politics that we now suffer as a country, where in fact wherever a candidate goes, people are putting up hands openly to say, pay us for a vote. If they were voting a party and not individuals, I guess that would be minimized. Now, having said that, I'd like to talk about the other aspect of that, of what you raise, because you are talking about parliament. I think our biggest problem is the executive. And I think the powers of the executive must be urgently deconcentrated, and regional entities must be created. And that's why we support even the federal system of government, where regions where regions have power to make decisions and to run their affairs wherever
Okay.
they are,
All right. Thank
without the single one person in the State House running the show for our country.
All right.
So there are many things that...
Mr. Mama Mbabazi, do you have a question for any of the candidates?
No.
Okay. Dr. Abed Bwanika.
First of all, let me use my 10 seconds to pronounce myself on the homosexuality. While I'm the president of Uganda, Uganda will never be a homosexual country. Will never be a homosexual country.
But
Secondly,
some people will argue that that point would suggest that you'll be directly discriminating against a certain section of the country.
there is no proof anywhere in the whole world that someone is born homosexual. We will rehabilitate them.
But that doesn't mean that there are no gay people in Uganda, though.
But we'll rehabilitate them, we'll help them to come back to become normal people. They must come to be normal people. I just want to ask a question to Honorable Amama Mbabazi. What is your stand on federalism?
I appreciate the popularity tonight. I have made my position very clear. This is in our manifesto. We will respect and act in accordance with the wishes of the people.
Have you finished?
Yeah.
Will you grant Buganda federal?
If they so wish.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, candidates. And just before we come to your closing statements, one question for all of you. We'd like to know by show of hands how many of you, if elected to the presidency, would review the Constitution when it comes to the issue of presidential term limits.
Even you, Mr. Mbabazi, who designed the term limit?
Can I answer that?
No, not really.
All right, we're going...
No, I'm happy to answer it.
No, it's okay. I
It's
think,
fine.
no.